All right, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about a fight I am really excited about if it can happen. Jermall Charlo has called out Gennady Golovkin and said that he would be willing to take B-side money to make that fight happen. And I think that that is one of the more logical fights in boxing and might actually lead to a great fight with Canelo Alvarez for the winner. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. So I get to talk about Jermall Charlo, a guy that I think is one of the most talented fighters in boxing. Exceptional fighter. I think he's the best guy at 160 pounds. I think he might be the best guy between 147 pounds and 168 pounds. The thing with Jermall Charlo is that he's not been given the opportunity to prove that that's the case. Despite that, there's still an opportunity for him to do so, provided that people will actually get in the ring with him. There's a lot of, sweat that he's getting for the fight that he's having next. I think it might be against a guy named Kota, but or I'm sure whatever his name is somebody that people expect to be a Passover fight, and they're just somebody that, like a cupcake or somebody that he's going to get rid of. And so people aren't particularly excited for that fight. When it was announced on the PBC card, people weren't were not very celebratory of it, and I can understand why. But at the same time, I can understand why Jermall Charlo's in that position, because, a whole bunch of people who are out there who are fans of boxing or act like they're fans of boxing, or at least they talk like they're fans of boxing, but they act like they're just, I don't know, media bots for DAZN or something. They just want to keep convincing people that there's nobody in the world that can beat Canelo, and Canelo is, he's off in sainthood, and we don't need to worry about him fighting people like Jermall Charlo or Demetrius Andrade. He's way too good for them. That's why he needs to fight the likes of guys much lesser fighters like Callum Smith and whoever else, or Billy Joe Saunders, Yeldemir, and guys like that, right? That type of nonsense keeps. That type of conversation is used to justify Jermall Charlo not being able to fight the guys that he wants to fight. And as long as Jermall Charlo can't get the fight because of people like that, then he can never prove that he could beat the guy, right? If all you keep doing is saying, who have you fought, every time he asks and tries to get a good fight, who is he ever going to be able to fight if you just make the excuse that he shouldn't get the fight? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, man. So, and Jermall Charlo has been ducked, just flat out ducked by Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez was at 140 pounds. At 154 pounds with Canelo Alvarez. He's at 160 pounds with Canelo Alvarez. And he dropped a belt before he would fight Jermall Charlo. It's just absolutely ridiculous, man. How much people have stayed away from him, and he can't go down and stay at 154 because eventually he's going to run into his brother, right? And he's a big guy. So moving forward and one of the things that I really do like about Jermall Charlo is that Jermall Charlo, like Demetrius Andrade, despite what explosion you had from Canelo Alvarez at that moment, have always been very, very respectful towards Canelo, have never really called him out of his name or been insulting about his style or anything like that. They're just saying, look, man, we want the fight, right? Come on, man. Yeah, you were the first guy to get there. You're the first guy to get the big, to get the big win, or to get the big fight over Floyd Mayweather Jr. But, dude, we're not Austin Trout. You know what I'm saying? I'm not Austin Trout. I'm not James Kirkland. I'm not Amir Khan. I'm not, Callum Smith. You're right? You beat all those guys. Great. Now beat me, because if you can't beat me, you can't beat me, right? And it doesn't matter if I didn't beat those other guys that you beat. If any of those other guys would have beaten you, right, and beaten you significantly, dude, we wouldn't even be talking about having a fight, right? Similarly, I wouldn't even be, or Jermall wouldn't even be in the position to be talking about getting a fight like he's talking about it if somebody had been beating him. The fact of the matter is both of those guys got the fights that they were able to fight, and they won the fights that they were able to fight. And there's pretty much nobody else left for those guys to fight. But mainstream media are trying to come up with excuses for why you don't do that. So Jermall Charlo, makes a lot of sense to me. Says, hey, man, how can I get myself in a better position? The best way to get in a position to do that is by fighting another big name. And often people do this. They'll fight another big name that had fought the guy that they're wanting to fight, right? So Gennady Golovkin at 1 and 2 are the biggest fights in Canelo Alvarez's career, monetarily. Now, obviously there was a bigger fight with Canelo and Floyd Mayweather, in the total dollar value of the fight, but it's still not as big a fight. That's still Floyd Mayweather. When you had Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez, that was a Canelo Alvarez fight. He was the bigger star than Gennady Golovkin was, and he won the fight. And after he won those fights, he then pretty much hit coast when he went to DAZN. What I'm hoping is that he hit coast because those were the fights that DAZN wanted him to have. But, that's kind of, a distinction without a difference, because at the end of the day, the fights didn't happen. But if Jermall Charlo is able to beat Gennady Golovkin, then that's especially if he's able to do it in a better manner, or if he's not able to beat Jermall Charlo, right? I mean, not able to beat Gennady Golovkin, then that tells you, hey, maybe we're not ready. Maybe it is what it is. He wasn't ready for a Canelo Alvarez fight. He got dogged by Gennady Golovkin, right? So asking for that fight makes a ton of sense. And I like how humbly Jermall Charlo is trying to make the fight, because he's saying, look, I'll acknowledge that I'm the B-side on the fight, right? I'm not going to argue, come up and do a Terrence Crawford and clearly be the B-side to the fight, but yet insist, because I was a champion in multiple divisions and all that I'm going to make, that I'm going to take a 50-50 with you, or I'm going to walk away. Jermall is coming into the negotiations saying, hey, man, I know you're the A-side. You can have the A-side money. I'm confident enough in myself that I am willing to bet on that and go beat you, right? You've been in the big pay-per-views and had HBO, giving you all that publicity, ESPN giving you all that publicity, putting you on the pound for pound list. Yeah, man, take all that money that comes with that and give me the fight. And when I beat you, I'm going to replace you on those lists. I absolutely positively love it. And when you look at the fight, from like a stylistic standpoint, they look very similar to me, except for they being Gennady Golovkin and Jermall Charlo. They look very similar to me, with the exception being that Jermall Charlo is bigger, longer, more athletic, has better defense. He can fight on the outside. There you go. And I think that what is going to happen if he fights Gennady Golovkin is that Gennady Golovkin is going to be eating a lot of jabs. And Gennady Golovkin is an older fighter, but still, I don't know if a prime Gennady Golovkin beats a prime Jermall Charlo, period. This is something that is also said by guys like Bernard Hopkins, and Bernard Hopkins is the best guy at that weight class, at the very least, since Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and really might be one of the best middleweights since, guys, I don't know, whoever was there in the 1960s, right? Because I do think he's better than Carlos Monzon at 160. I've watched enough fights of him to say that. So, hey, man, if that's something that Bernard Hopkins says, that I'm okay. Shoot, I'm okay with it. Let's have the Gennady Golovkin fight, because if he's wrong, it'll show up in the Gennady Golovkin fight. If he's right, it'll show up in the Gennady Golovkin fight. Gennady Golovkin makes a ton of money. Jermall Charlo makes a ton of money. If it's aired on DAZN, because they're the A-side, DAZN makes a lot of money. But, we'll see. Will DAZN actually want to make that fight? Because you obviously have the opportunity for Gennady Golovkin to lose, and then Jermall Charlo to take all that cachet that he gets from beating Gennady Golovkin and go over there to the PBC. But at the end of the day, either one of them is the winner of that fight would be catapulted, and obviously be somebody that people should put pressure on Canelo Alvarez to fight. Whether it is a rematch with Gennady Golovkin, or whether it is a first fight that's long overdue with Jermall Charlo. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.